All right, and we are recording. Perfect. And then if Vice Chair Carr, if you just want to call the meeting to order, then I'll do the instructions for virtual decorum.
All right, I will call the meeting of the Beverage Licensing Authority to order on Wednesday, August 21st at 3:02 p.m.
And the first item on the agenda is our rules of decorum. I'm just going to share my screen. All right, the city has engaged with community members to co-create a vision for productive, meaningful, and inclusive civic conversations. This vision supports physical and emotional safety for community members, staff, and board and commission members, as well as democracy for people of all ages, identities, lived experiences, and political perspectives. For more information about this vision and the project, you can visit our website. The following are examples of rules of decorum found in the Boulder Revised Code and other guidelines that support this vision. These will be upheld during this meeting. All remarks and testimony should be limited to matters related to city business. No participant shall make threats or use other forms of intimidation against any person. Obscenity, racial epithets, and other speech and behavior that disrupts or otherwise impedes the ability to conduct the meeting are prohibited. Participants are required to sign up, speak only the name they are commonly known by, and individuals must display their whole name before being allowed to speak online. Currently, only audio testimony is permitted online. The Q&A function should be used for technical questions to staff, and it should not be used for public comment. Excuse me. All right. Next on our agenda is roll call, and if you will just speak your presence aloud. Member Absalom?
Member Absalom present.
Vice Chair Carr?
Vice Chair Carr present.
Member Haggerty?
Member Haggerty present.
Member Roberts?
Roberts present.
Thank you. And then Chair Califano will be in shortly, hopefully. Next on our agenda is the approval of Beverage Licensing Authority minutes from June 26, 2024. I apologize again, it was missing from your packet for some reason. Member Absalom pointed that out, so I did send it to you in a separate email, and then I'll post it for public on the website as soon as the hearing's over.
Members of the authority, did everyone have a chance to review it? And were there any questions, feedback, anything we should adjust? No, not seeing anything. I'll make a motion to approve the BLA minutes from June 26, 2024.
Member Absalom will second that motion.
All in favor? Member Carr, Vice Chair Carr, aye.
Member Absalom, aye.
Member Haggerty, aye.
Member Roberts, aye.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the hearing agenda issues from licensing clerk. I have no issues for today. And next we have matters from Boulder Police Department, and Officer Rec is here.
Hi, Officer Leah Reck, Boulder PD. Not a lot to report this month, just continuing with inspections and compliance checks, and that we have received over 1,000 fake IDs so far this year, so I appreciate that. And other than that, that's about it.
Thanks, Officer Rec. Anything from any of the members?
A quick question, Member Haggerty. With the school year about to start for CU, are you going to see kind of an increased presence up, Pearl Street up on the hill, and kind of some areas that you might focus more on?
Are you asking if those are areas that we focus more on?
Well, yeah, specifically with the kind of the start of the school year, is that?
Absolutely. We have, I believe it's this weekend, possibly next weekend, what we call back to school operations, where we have extra officers on staff to help out with the additional and the increase in call and activity, pedestrian traffic, and all that good stuff. So that we expect that this weekend and the following weekend.
Great, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Officer Rick. Appreciate everything you do.
Thank you. Agenda item 3 is matters from Responsible Association of Retailers. Nathan Dewey did let me know that he is on vacation, so he will not be attending today, and there's no one in his place, so we can just skip over that one. Agenda item 4 is general public comment for future beverage licensing authority hearings. If there's anyone here who is wanting to make public comment for something not related to something on the agenda, go ahead and raise your hand in the attendees box and I will let you in. I see we have one hand raised. Okay, and then it's from Mr. Deer King. Mr. Deer King, I'm just going to click allow to talk and then you'll be able to unmute yourself. And I also want to note before we get started that Member Califano or Chair Califano is now present. And Mr. Deer King, you should be able to speak now.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. I submitted a written comment, and so I won't go over all of that again in detail, but just briefly wanted to summarize the reasons why I wanted to reach out to the BLA about the issues raised in my letter and to be available for any questions or illumination that might be helpful to the members. I was speaking with one of our elected officials about these topics earlier this year and asking whether this is something City Council might have an interest in. And the indication I got is very possibly so, but that Council has so many things to deal with. They like to see things work up through the process from the folks they see as the subject matter experts. And he told me they feel like the BLA is the subject matter experts when it comes to liquor licensing issues. And so it would be most appropriate to start the conversation with you all if it's something that you feel is of interest or should be considered by council, that council would look more favorably on that kind of feedback from you. I think the alcohol marketplace, especially for off-premise, has changed pretty dramatically over the last 5 years. And yet there's been very little local input into that. I think a lot of citizens maybe aren't even really fully aware of how much it has changed, other than maybe when they're shopping for groceries, seeing more alcohol displays. But the reality is there's been a great densification of places selling alcohol and really a shift in how alcohol is sold, whereas historically, other than 3.2 low point beer, alcohol was sold in specialty stores, liquor stores. And now one of our large distributors has told us that 2/3 of all wine in the state of Colorado is now being sold in chain grocery stores. As a liquor store owner, I can tell you at Hazel's, as much as we do our best to be a successful business, our sales are down about 30%. And I think there are many liquor stores in town where the effects are more dramatic than that. So from a policy perspective, I would just encourage you all to ask, is this something that you might want to address? Also knowing that the chains who have accomplished these changes so far through statewide political means have made no secret of their intention to seek hard liquor in their stores. And I'm involved with our trade association at the state, and I can tell you that those efforts are already underway in various different forms. And so I think if Boulder does nothing, you should have the expectation that hard liquor will be sold in food stores in Boulder in the coming years. So with that, I'll wrap up and thank you for your time and happy to answer any questions.
And Mr. Deer King, before I let the BLA talk, do you mind just saying your name and spelling your name and providing your address for the record?
Of course, I apologize. Bruce Deerking, BruceDierking. My home address is 7102 Rosina Drive, Longmont, 80503.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Deer King. Are there any questions from the board for Mr. Deer King?
This is Member Absalom here. Thank you, Mr. Deer King, for this letter. I want you to know that we don't take this lightly. We saw this happen when it was happening in real time. But I want to kind of defer to licensing and state law around this in terms of when as mentioned in your letter, when Prop 125, it did fail in Boulder, but did pass through the state, those changes in how sales were going through off-premise licensees went through licensing most of the time without the BLA actually seeing any of those, as per the rules. So my question, I guess, to you is, we are bound to Colorado state law as an authority. What is a suggestion that you have? I have in your letter, your suggestion. I'm not sure what we as a board can do when we're bound to the Colorado state law, unless an ordinance is changed in Boulder.
Thank you, Member Absalom, Bruce Deerking. It's a good question, and I think it's one that a lot of folks, it's the first thing they raise, is feeling like our cities are their hands tied. And it is true that there are limits on what a municipality can do in the area of alcohol regulation, but it's not nothing. And historically, the policy was dual licensing, dual control, with significant local input. And I think the chains have gotten very practiced and very good, and learned how to use their financial resources to find end runs around that. But I think what the BLA could do, and what I'm asking you to do, is to have a policy conversation about what you believe would be best for Boulder and make recommendations to council. Even though I was a lawyer, the area of alcohol regulation is super complex, and it's going to require legal research that I couldn't give you, and the city attorneys probably couldn't off the top of their heads either. But if, as a policy matter, Boulder says we would like to have some more control, and particularly over this issue of further densification of alcohol outlets, and increasing and expanding the types and I guess the types and the ABV of alcohol products being sold in these stores, I think the time to get ahead of it is now, before the horse is out of the barn. A couple of specific examples I mentioned in the letter, and I believe that these are both certainly legally permissible, is cities can have local radius restrictions. The city of Aurora has a 2,000-foot radius restriction right now. They've had that on the books for years. So Boulder has no radius restriction between outlets that I'm aware of. I know there is between schools and some things, but that would be a way to stop further densification. The chains have sometimes used the methodology of buying a small existing license and then greatly expanding that as a way of getting around radius restrictions. So it would be important to build in some of those kind of protections. And then I think most significantly, if a licensee wants to renew a license that was originally issued to sell 3.2 beer 25 years ago, and the neighborhood has not been asked again, would you like this same business to be selling wine and hard liquor, that we should say Boulder will not renew that license, which is a city's right, unless and until you do a new neighborhood survey and we have a new hearing in front of our board, and we decide whether we as a local community need and want that type of alcohol sold in that location. There may be other ideas. Those were the two that I could think of.
The last one with the petitioning, I think, is very reasonable and manageable to do. I just think that the 2,000-foot radius restriction, that's going to take some more work and time.
Yeah, and to that point, Chair Califano, I think we as the authority here are, I think, me personally, Member Absalom, willing to discuss this and the avenues that we can take. And that's something that we can totally discuss with licensing and the city attorney's office about what we actually do have the ability to do in our community legally. And I really appreciate this letter. Like I said, we've seen a lot of this as the laws were changing, and we're not a politically motivated group. We have to follow the law. So I really appreciate this letter, and I think we can all, I can personally say that I agree we should have further discussion around this and what we can do as a local community.
Do we want to add that to a future hearing as an agenda item?
So I need me to make a motion to do that, or nope? We can just say that we should make that an agenda item coming up in September.
Yeah, I will warn you that your September agenda is very large. You have quite a few show causes on it. So you can make, I mean, we can put it on September, I'm just letting you know it.
Could we also do a study session on it, perhaps, and maybe that would make more sense to have a couple of us do a little more research into this with the city attorney, licensing staff. I'd be willing to volunteer for a study session if another member would like to join me in that.
This is Member Absalom, and I think that's a really, really smart idea, and I'd be willing to join that study session if that's possible.
Great. And
Yeah.
you think you guys would be able to bring that before the board next month?
I was thinking it might make sense for us to work on it over the next month, and since September being busy, be prepared to present something by October.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. Are there any other questions for Mr. Deerking? Mr. Deerking, did you have anything else you'd like to say?
No, Bruce Yerking, again, thank you for your time. I know how busy you are and very much appreciate the consideration. If I can be a resource at all, feel free to reach out.
Great. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else in attendance who would like to give public comment at this time? If you would, just go ahead and raise your hand. I see no other hands raised, so I will move on. Next we are on agenda item 5, Panko Corporation DBA Chicken on the Hill, 1119 13th Street, Boulder, Colorado, 80302. Monthly status report to the BLA, and Mr. Liu is here. And while Mr. Liu is being entered into the room here, I'll let you know that Chicken on the Hill is in good standing with occupation tax and sales tax at this time.
Awesome.
How are you guys doing today?
Good. Good. You?
I'm doing good, sir. Thank you for asking.
All right. So we just got confirmation that you're in good with all of your sales taxes and occupancy taxes. Are there any questions for Mr. Liu?
This is Member Absalom just saying, as mentioned by Member Haggerty, we do have students coming back. So things are going to change a little bit for your location. Do you have a plan in place for a volume change as things change?
Yes, sir. We're doubling up our security teams. We are doubling up our cameras. We are looking into an ID scanner. We bought it. We just want to see how effective it is. We're going to be proposing it to Officer Leah, Officer Rick, I'm sorry. And then we'll go on from there.
Thank you for that. I don't have a.
All right. Are there any other questions? All right. Keep it up, Mr. Liu, and thank you so much.
Thank you guys. You guys are awesome. Okay.
Thank you. Second. Okay, next we have agenda item 6, which is show cause hearing concerning an alleged violation and whether the fermented malt beverage and wine retailer off-premise type liquor license held by Pearl Street Pub and Cellar LLC, DBA Pearl Street Pub and Cellar, 1108 Pearl Street, Boulder, Colorado, 80302 should be suspended or revoked. And if you are here to speak on this matter, go ahead and raise your hand. I see that Mr. Son is here. And while Mr. Song gets into the room here, I'll just let everyone know that Pearl Street Pub and Cellar is in good standing with occupation tax and sales tax. And there is a stipulation in this case.
Like you said, Ms. Kellogg, there is a stipulation in this case. The city has entered into a stipulation with the Pearl Street Pub and would move for the board to accept that stipulation at this time.
Caitlin, was that in our packet? I'm not sure I saw that.
Yes, it should have been.
I didn't see it in our packet either.
Okay. I'm so sorry. One second. I will send it out. Give me just a second. Would you like to take like a 5-minute recess, so that you can review that?
I think that would be a good idea.
Okay. All right, give me 1 second and I'll send it, and then it's 3:23, so 3:30. Thank you so much. The recording has resumed and we are on agenda item 6.
Ms. Keller, yeah, if you could just make that motion again.
That's good. The city has conferred with Pearl Street Pub and a stipulation has been entered into. The city would move for the board to accept that stipulation at this time.
Thank you so much. Is there a motion to accept the stipulation? Member Califano would make a motion.
Member Carr will second that motion.
All in favor say aye. Member Califano, aye.
Member Haggerty, aye.
Member Absalom, aye.
Member Carr, aye.
Member Roberts, aye.
Thank you so much, Ms. Keller.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And who would be giving testimony in this matter today? Looks like we have 2 people, and which one of us? Okay. Mr. Son, will you be speaking on this matter? Or
Yes.
Alexander? Okay.
Yes.
And Alexander, will you be speaking on this matter?
I'm sorry. Yes, I will if called to.
Mr. Son, if you'll just raise your right hand, I'll swear you in and then you can go ahead. Do you swear or affirm that the statements you're about to give before the Beverage Licensing Authority are true and correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and then if you'll just say your name and spell your name for the record.
Sure. Jim Son, SONN. And I'm sorry, what else did you need? My address?
That'd be great.
2810 7th Street, Boulder, 80304.
Okay, perfect. And Alexander, if you end up giving testimony, we will I'll swear you in at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Great. And Mr. Son, since you're not represented by counsel, I'm going to go ahead and read the procedures into the record.
Okay.
This is a public hearing before the Beverage Licensing Authority of the City of Boulder to determine whether or not the license of Pearl Street Pub and Cellar LLC, doing business as Pearl Street Pub and Cellar, with a fermented malt beverage and wine retailer off-premise type liquor license, shall be suspended or revoked on the basis of the violations alleged in the order to show cause served upon the licensee and requiring the licensee's presence here today. Because this is a disciplinary proceeding, the authority shall not ask for or allow comment from members of the general public on the guilt of the licensee or the appropriate discipline to be imposed. The purpose of this hearing is to receive testimony presented by the city and the licensee in order to enable this authority to make findings and determine by a preponderance of the evidence whether or not the licensee has violated the various laws as alleged. If in the course of the hearing testimony or other evidence establishes the guilt of the licensee of violation of some other law, rule, or regulation than those stated in the notice, the licensee shall be afforded a reasonable continuance upon any offer that evidence in defense, explanation, and mitigation is not then available to the licensee, but can be obtained within a period of a continuance not to exceed 10 days. A record is being made of these proceedings. All testimony shall be given under oath. The rules of evidence and requirement of proof and procedure shall confirm to the extent practicable to those in civil non-jury cases, but when necessary to ascertain facts affecting the substantial rights of the public or of the licensee. The authority may receive and consider evidence not admissible under such rules if such evidence possesses probative value commonly accepted by reasonable and prudent persons in the conduct of their affairs. The rules of privilege required by the law shall be respected in this proceeding, and the chair may exclude incompetent and unduly repetitious evidence. The chair shall rule upon all questions of evidence and procedure subject to being overruled on motion sustained by a majority vote of those members of the authority present. Should a licensee wish to request a fine in lieu of activity suspension days, they should notify the authority after this penalty is determined, if any, but before suspension posting is discussed. And the licensee should be prepared to supply an estimate per day suspension dollar amount for the authority's deliberations. Is there any ex parte communication or conflict of interest from any of the board members?
This is member Absalom here. I'm disclosing that I know Mr. San and both Mr. Sandoval in different capacities. I know Mr. San by serving as the vice president of the Colorado Restaurant Association Boulder chapter. We conferred on various meetings together. And then Mr. Sandoval also served with me on the board of the Responsible Hospitality Group, of which I was the president for 10 years. Having considered that under the rules of conflict, whether there is a conflict of interest at all in this case, I do not find that I do have that. There's no financial gain or loss based on the decision that we make today. There are no issues, good or bad, that would cause you to be biased, either for or against this case against the Pearl Street Pub and Cellar.
Great, thank you for that. Member Califano, no.
Member Carr, no.
Member Haggerty, no.
Member Roberts, no.
And let the record show that member Absalom has disclosed his relation with these individuals. All right, at this point, Mr. San, this is your opportunity to present to us what happened here.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for allowing me to speak. First, really, I just wanted to mostly be available for questions or clarification. But we have admitted guilt. It was definitely, we messed up. I mean, there's no arguing it. So we for sure admit guilt. The only thing that, as far as that I would want to speak about or admit as evidence is our desire to follow the law, our reputation that we've gained over a long time, and some evidence to that effect. I know you do have stuff that I had admitted. You have some info in the packets, and I apologize for any disorganization there. If that's the case, I'm not the best with that kind of stuff. But one thing I wanted to clarify, I had tried to admit as evidence checks that we had written to emergency family assistance over the years as evidence of our community involvement. I did get, after that, during this last week, I got an email from them giving us the exact amount that we had donated over the years since 2008. And that grand total was $75,658. I made a copy of that email. So I got an exact amount there. We had contributed up until 2022, and then we started paying back our loans from COVID. So we haven't contributed since then, but we plan on starting again as soon as we can. One other thing that I wanted to point out is that would illustrate our desire to be responsible is our percentage of our sales that are food. I think you guys could probably see that on our printout from last 90 days. But in 2023, we were up to 25% of our sales in food. We are a tavern license, so obviously that isn't a necessary thing for our license, but we've always felt that was necessary. We felt that we wanted to be known as a food place as well as a drinking place, and we definitely foster that. We encourage people to be eating while they're drinking. And the only reason why it's not higher than 25% is because we try to keep those prices low to further encourage people to eat. Another thing I want to point out is we have responsible advertising practices. In fact, we don't advertise at all. We have a Facebook account, and that's it. But yearly we do get solicited for advertising, usually for programs for the football games and other things associated with campus, and we say no because we know that a lot of that audience is underage, so we never do that. We did sign up for the bars program, so we have we will be having people anonymously coming by to make sure that we're checking that everybody that's on duty is doing their job and checking IDs. So that is going to be starting soon, along with the school year. Let's see. I think that's really it, all I wanted to add to the things that you have. And any questions, of course, I'd be glad to answer. And also, actually, AJ or Alex Sandoval, who's also in attendance, he is our door manager or security head of security, and so he would be available to answer any questions related to training or our policies, concerning anything to do with security and checking IDs. So in fact, he might have AJ, you might have, if you have anything specific to say, I think you could maybe let these guys know and be admitted.
Sure. Yeah. If there's any questions about our policies or how we conduct training, etc., I'd be more than happy to share that.
Alexander, before we move forward with any of your testimony, I will just swear you in. Are you able to turn? Oh, you turned your camera off. Perfect. If y'all just raise your right hand for me. Do you swear or affirm that the statements you're about to give are true and correct?
I do.
Thank you. And if you'll just state your name and spell your name for the record.
Sure. It's Alexander, Alexander, middle of James, James, last of Sandoval, Sandova.
Thank you. And then if you'll provide an address, home, or business.
Address is 1108 Pearl Street.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Son or Mr. Sandoval? Mr. Son, I just, if you could email those checks to Caitlin, she can get them entered on the record.
I actually did that. I think she hasn't, but if needed, I'll send it to her again.
So are you referring to all of the checks that you sent in the email?
Right, I think. Oh, I'm sorry.
So instead of putting checks in the packet because it's public, I just went ahead and put the email in there with like you could see the checks were attached because I didn't want your personal bank information on the internet.
Much appreciated. Much
No
appreciated. I wasn't sure exactly how to the members' question, addressing the members' question. I wasn't sure exactly how to prove that we had donated. And so, the deadline was last Wednesday, and I got this email after that. So I'm not sure if this might suffice as well, the email that I was showing you, which is directly from EFA.
Great, thank you for that. Are there any questions?
I did have a question. I noticed, this is member Carb. So I noticed it appears there's a scanner in the packet, an ID scanner, and I was curious if this is a new addition to your process, or if this was in place but it's not being used the day that this violation occurred. Could you speak a little bit more about that?
Yes, no, we did get that after. We what I decided was, you know what? Let's see. Our policy has always been that with a vertical ID, bells and whistles should go off, and special care be given, and however long it takes, however many extra minutes it takes to double and triple check. And obviously, it didn't happen in this case. So what I was thinking is let's get one of these things and then require that be used every time there's a vertical ID. So that's how we're using it.
Great, that's awesome. Another question I had, and I didn't notice this, but do you have a written alcohol policy?
Written alcohol as far as policy as far as
It's
over
serving.
service.
Yeah, exactly. And employee conduct and what they're supposed to do, and if someone's overserved or they assume that someone's overserved.
Right. No, we don't have anything in writing. We do constantly remind everybody, and along with all of our tips training, it's something that we bring up all the time, verbally. One thing that is I'm very thankful for is that we have a very long-standing group of employees that the average amount of years I think is something like 11. So everybody has gone through tips training multiple times. All of our bartenders have, and heard this from all of this stuff that you're talking about, all of these policies and about over service and checking IDs many times from me and AJ especially. But this is something that we've constantly talked about over the years.
And if I may too, this is AJ, also known as Alexander. I'll just go with AJ if that's okay with you guys. We had been developing a employee handbook prior to this event. We, as Jim said, our average tenure is about 11, 12 years. And we, had never had a written policy because it's always been a verbal thing through training. So we are developing one, and would be signed by every employee, even if they had been employed for quite some time, just so everybody's on the page. It's in writing. We have our policies in writing, as opposed to just the kind of handed down verbal direction.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely think that would be good to have written down, because sometimes people forget things. People aren't available to answer questions, and they might make an assumption that, is detrimental for your business.
Yes. Heard. Yep. I agree. I'll be talking to AJ right after this, and we'll expedite that.
Are you a member of RAR?
We are AJ.
No, we are not. I had reached out to Dewey with RAR, and I never got a email back, never got a phone call back, after repeated attempts. And this is something that I've been told has been an issue. Also too, when I finally was able to get a reply from them, and I asked them what the schedule was for the next meetings, they said that they are no longer doing them, because there was no attendance and no interest. So we have not become a member of RAR.
Caitlin, have we heard anything about that from Nathan?
I have not heard anything about that, but city licensing really only gets the information that RAR sends to you guys. Like, we don't typically get any other information besides his updates here. I do know that he's out of town, but if you wanted to inquire with him about that further, I'm sure he would answer when he gets back. I'm not sure.
If I could interject just a second. I know we were a member of the RHG, which I guess is the former group for a long time. I'm not sure when that switched over.
I think it was sometime quickly, shortly around the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken. That it got switched over to the RAR group.
We can definitely inquire as to what that's about with not meeting. But I bring them up because I think it would be good for you guys in terms of creating a written alcohol policy. They can give you some guidance on that, show you what it should include, even to the most minute things that you think would be obvious. Writing it down really kind of has your back a little bit more than just a verbal policy. But that would be something that I would suggest for you guys.
Right. Another thing that we'll do is be in touch with John Ballier, who's been our teacher for tips for a long time. And I think he could probably help us out with that as well.
That would be another good resource, yes. I have a question of just kind of the obvious. How did this happen?
Yeah, I've been asking that question since that day. The employee just messed up. I'm not sure if he was just not having a good day, if he was just got distracted. I mean, I don't want to give any excuses for him or for us. It shouldn't have happened. He really had no good explanation other than what he said to me was it was really busy and I messed up. So once I gathered the facts and made sure I knew what had happened, we let him go the next day. So it was inexcusable.
And prior to the infraction in question, he had been employed with us for, I think, almost 3 years. And he was one of the people that I personally have trained. And when this happened, I was kind of walking into work as it was happening, or shortly after it happened. And he told me what was going on. And Chandler was one of those guys that I never thought that he would face like this before. So it was really a shock for me to hear that he failed to sting. There was a pub crawl that was unsanctioned by us and the downer, and we had no notice or participation in it, but they still put our names on the t-shirts. And so throughout the day, he had various large groups that were kind of running around. Definitely no excuse. I was really surprised that it happened with him. He's always been very on the spot. Was great with de-escalation, and yeah, I think Jim and I are both just kind of just human error. That's where a lot of this is kind of, we're vulnerable to that. Is definitely the human error, and so trying to take some of that element out is what we're going to probably be doing moving forward.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions from the board?
Yeah, this is member Absalom. I was just wondering if there has been any prior offenses in the last 5 years for this licensee. No, just double checking that, just so that's on the record. Yeah, just regarding having the tenured employee concept, right, and then having those policies just known by people. I just want to make sure that those were functional, right, until this point where you had one employee who kind of slips here. Just wanted to make that clear looking at this in terms of aggravating mitigating factors. So no other violations. Sounds good. I have no other questions.
Right. Last time that, I'm sorry.
No, Mr. Sung, go ahead.
I just want to say the last time we had anything like this was 2013.
And I had one question for AJ. As a head of security, how are you, changing or how you supervise the team, staff, and does that expand also out to the bartenders as well? Because reading through the statement of facts of what happened, the bartender didn't check the ID either, and I'm curious if that's changing on your side, if that's a new process maybe you've implemented.
Sure, thank you. Be glad to. So there's going to probably definitely be some things that are going to change a little bit. At the end of the day, the bartender obviously is responsible for actually physically serving somebody alcohol. We have always held a policy that if they didn't feel comfortable with something and somebody walked up and they just wasn't very comfortable with the person that were presenting themselves, that they're obviously more than welcome to card as well. During the day, as it's getting busy in the semester, we are adding more staff during the daytime, which is what we have been doing, for several years now. But with the home games in town, definitely beefing up that presence of people at the door, and as a redundancy, probably usually 2 people at the door. So there's the ability of having a partner, which is what I do at night. I have a partner that I work with, and we bounce things off together. Whether it could be a fake ID, it might be an IPO, and I'm sure you know what the IPO is. It could be how to deal with somebody. We also are wired up with 2-way radios, so we're able to communicate very quickly and efficiently as far as where a situation is. We try to be very proactive. We always have been, just keeping just little things like keeping a little ear to a conversation that becomes a little bit more elevated. Maybe some more swearing happens, by addressing that potential issue with the parties involved, is definitely something that I would say that we do very well. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, there are going to be some policy changes. And with the TIPS program, they do have the option that you can request
bars
that.
program.
I'm sorry, right. With the bars program, you can request, say, hey, anybody shows you or asks for your ID, that quote unquote passes. They also have the option where the operative would present their ID at the door if that was present, which we always have somebody at the door, 7 days a week, and the bartender. If that is something that we wanted to do, which, obviously moving forward, definitely be discussing potential fail safes for this to not happen again.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions from the board? Not seeing any. All right, Mr. Sun, is there anything else you'd like to present to us before we close for deliberation?
No, thank you for letting us participate. I think I want to make sure I had it right as far as us requesting the possibility of fine in lieu of suspension, that would come later.
You can make the board aware of that at this point.
Okay. Yes, please. We would like to request that.
All right, so at this point, we will close for deliberation. Is there a motion? Member Califano would say that given the evidence presented to us, aggravating and mitigating, I personally feel like it falls at table value. And Caitlin, can you confirm, is this a tavern license?
Yes.
Great.
Let me triple check for you. Sorry.
Pretty sure it is. I just didn't see the word tavern in the posting.
Correct. Tavern.
Great. So table value would be 3 days served with 6 held in abeyance. I would make a motion for table value. I would also add the stipulation on that they present us with their written policy package within the next 2 months. Gives them a little time to put it together, really refine it. accurate, but that would be my motion.
Member Carr would second that motion.
All right.
May I just say something before we continue here? Just looking at the actual agenda here, you're right, that's why you're confused, because we have this licensee listed as a malt beverage wine retailer off-premise type license on the agenda. So it is a tavern license.
It is a tavern license. I apologize.
Okay, so just to be clear, we'll make an amendment to the agenda on that. Because I was just looking back, so I remember hearing that as well. So it is a tavern license, and the motion is a table value with a written policy in place with a check back with how long?
Within the next 2 months.
2 months.
So we have a first and a second. All in favor say aye. Member Califano, aye.
Member Carr, aye.
Member Absalom, aye.
Member Haggerty, aye.
Now they have requested a fine in lieu, and typically we do not grant these. Is anybody in favor of that? Member Califano, no.
Member Carr, no.
Member Roberts, no.
Member Haggerty, no.
Member Absalom is abstain.
All right, so fine in lieu has been denied. Now we've got to determine sentencing dates. Caitlin is starting next Monday. Okay,
Yep, that's totally fine. I'll be in the office tomorrow so I can make the posters and set them out for them to be grab over the weekend.
all right. So it will be 3 days served, Mr. Song, with 6 held in abeyance. Those 6 go away if you do not get a violation within a year. If you do get a violation within a year, you will have to serve those in addition to any additional penalties we decide.
Okay. A question I have.
Yeah.
As far as the days, I believe the 3 days to be served, are we able to choose those?
No, we make that determination. You can make a
okay.
request and we can assess that, but we've already determined that they go Monday through Wednesday.
Oh, okay, of next week.
Correct.
Okay. It wouldn't be possible to delay that a week or two so that we could schedule to make use of that time to make some improvements.
Roberto, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've already moved, correct?
You have, however, you can treat this as a motion for reconsideration. And so you now should act on the reconsideration. It's also important to note for purposes of our record at what time the suspension begins and ends.
Great. So the suspension, Caitlin, correct me if I'm wrong, is at 12 a.m. Monday morning,
Correct.
ending at 11:59 on Wednesday evening.
Correct.
Is there a motion from any board member for a reconsideration?
This is Member Carr. I'll make a motion for a reconsideration.
Is there a second?
Member
Member
Absalom.
Haggerty.
Oh, please, Member Haggerty, go ahead.
Yeah, Member Haggerty, second.
All right. Is there consideration for particular days? Mr. Son, when were you requesting?
If possible, if it would be possible, my understanding is it would have to be Monday through Wednesday. Is that correct?
It would have to be when you're open for business normally, and they have to be consecutive.
Right. So our request would be instead of starting on the Monday, starting on the Sunday, the 15th, 15th, 16th, and 17th. So Sunday through Tuesday.
Can somebody remind me our rules of, they have to serve these within a certain time period?
30 days.
So that technically does fall within 30 days. Mr. Son, can you repeat those dates again?
Would be Sunday, September 15th, 16th, and 17th.
Member Carr will make a motion to accept those dates.
Member Califano would second that motion. All in favor, say aye. Member Califano, aye.
Member Absalom, aye.
Member Haggerty, aye.
Sorry, guys, this is probably, I should have chimed in sooner. Did this offense take place in April? So the reason why I really like to work with our local owners, but I'm a little disappointed that I kept hearing from them that throughout that they're going to be implementing things. It's been 5 months. I feel like a policy could have been written. All the things you kept saying, I'm gonna do, we're gonna do, we're gonna do. I feel like 5 months was a pretty long time. We're giving you another 2 months. I don't know. I'm just gonna put that on the record. It's already been approved, but I felt that needed to be said on the record for Mr. Som and others who might be watching.
What was your vote, Member Roberts?
I will deny that, but I think it passes.
All right, it passed for moving those dates. Everyone voted, right? I lost track there for a minute. All right, so those will be the dates that you will need to get the posting and post those in your pub, and you will also, you can remain open and serve food, just not alcohol.
Right, thank you.
And then just for the record, that last motion was a motion for the dates to be suspended from September 15th to September 17th. And the vote count was 3 yays and 1 no.
4 yays and 1 no.
Sorry, 4 yays and 1 no. Thank you. All right. Okay, thank you, everyone. If you'll just give me a second to get everyone in the right place. And then, Mr. Son, just so you know, I will send you an email with instructions on how to pick up those suspension posters and where to post them and all that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you as well.
No problem. Okay. Next, we have agenda item 7, which is continued public hearing and consideration of an application filed on April 17th, 2024 from 921 Bar LLC, DBA C Bar C Burger, 921 Pearl Street, Boulder, Colorado, 80302. Brian Dayton, 50% owner, Samuel McCandless, 50% owner, and Anthony Ferris, registered manager. The business mailing address of 1023 Walnut Street, Suite 400, Boulder, Colorado, 80302 for a new hotel restaurant type liquor license. And if you're here to speak on this matter, go ahead and raise your hand. Ms. Vecchio is here and Liquor Pros. Anyone else who is here to speak on this matter, go ahead and raise your hand and I will let you in. All right. And Ms. Vecchio, who will be giving testimony today?
Yes, good afternoon. Brian Dayton is here and present to provide testimony.
And I see that Eva is also here.
Okay. And yes, I have Liquor Pros available as well. Eva is available.
Perfect. I will just go ahead and swear in and then I'll hand it over to the board. Mr. Dayton, if you will just say your name and spell your name for the record and give your address.
Yes, Brian Dayton, Bryan Dayton, and my address is 301 Overlook Lane, Boulder, Colorado.
Thank you so much. And if you'll raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the statements you're about to give are true and correct?
Yes.
Thank you. And then Ms. Garrettson, if you'll say your name, spell your name, and give address for the record.
Yes, for the record, my name is Eva Garrettson, Garretson, one of the owners of Liquor Pros, and we are at 5515 Saddle Rock Place in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm that the statements you're about to give are true and correct?
I do.
Thank you. And then do you swear or affirm that the premise has been posted for at least 10 days prior to today's hearing?
Yes.
Thank you so much. I'll hand it over.
Thanks, Caitlin.
Sure. And then Ms. Vecchio, if you'll just record your appearance when you can.
Perfect, thank you. So good afternoon. My name is Veronica Vecchio, attorney from Clark Hill, representing 921 Bar LLC, doing business as C Bar, C Burger. And we are applying for a new hotel restaurant liquor license located at 921 Pearl Street.
One second, Ms. Vecchio. Since you're representing as counsel, would you be willing to waive the reading of the proceedings into the record?
Yes.
Great. And is there any ex parte communication or conflicts of interest from any of the board members? Member Califano, no.
Member Absalom, no.
Member Carr, no.
Member Haggerty, no.
Member Roberts, no.
Great. And if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to this agenda item, if you could please raise your hand. There are only 2 attendees.
And they're both from city licensing, so we're good.
Okay, perfect then. All right, Ms. Vecchio, you may proceed.
Thank you. And for the record, my bar number is 37225. So my first witness, Mr. Dayton, if you could state your age.
Yes, 51.
And do you consume alcohol?
I do have glasses of wine and beers.
Okay. And if you could please provide a brief background of your education and experience in the restaurant industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in the hospitality industry for over 3 decades. We have this will be our 4th restaurant in Boulder, and actually 5th restaurant in Boulder. Sorry, and we've owned restaurants in the state of Colorado since 2010, so 14 years now of being in ownership.
And so how many total liquor licenses do you have in Colorado? You said 4 in Boulder.
4 in Boulder, 1 in Denver at the moment, so 5 total.
Okay. And for those 14 years, have you ever been sanctioned under the liquor code for a violation?
We've never had a violation.
Okay. And who are the members of 921 Bar LLC?
My chef partner is Samuel McCandless.
And if you could just briefly describe his experience in the food and alcohol service industry.
Absolutely. Samuel is 46, I think. He's my chef partner. He's been in the hospitality industry going on 3 decades as well, mainly all back of house. And we met actually together 20 years ago when we were working at Frosca Food and Wine for the first time.
And who will be the restaurant manager?
Anthony Ferris.
And do you have just a brief background of his experience?
Yeah, Anthony's been in the hospitality industry for a long time. He's actually he's our chef manager, and he's run the restaurants at Carita, and then also we have a Sea Burger in Denver, which is a food kiosk, and now he is helping us at the Colorado Club, and then he will be taking over the reins at Sea Burger, Sea Bar, and seeing to the day-to-day operations as the main manager.
And what is the overall concept of Sea Burger, Sea Bar in Boulder?
Yeah, absolutely. It's two different kind of experiences. On the west side will be Sea Burger. C stands for Colorado, silical, carbon neutral, all that good kind of stuff. That's a regenerative smash burger restaurant. So think something like Shake Shack meets Applebee's is kind of what we're going for there. And then there is on the other side of the wall, we'll be doing Sea Bar, which again, Colorado cocktail, classic kind of things like that. And that will be kind of a fun cocktail bar, but then it also we'll have a big food menu there as well. So, kind of a different kind of experience on that side of the wall.
And so one common kitchen, common employees, but separate concepts?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Who do you expect to be the typical customer for Sea Bar, Sea Burger?
I think it'll probably be Sea Burger, kind of a different anywhere from families to high school kids at lunch, things like that, to college kids to older crowds that want to come in, grab nourishment, watch a game. There will be a few TVs on the wall, things like that. The space is really small. Both spaces are less than like 1,800 square feet, so they're pretty cozy. And then at the bar at C Bar, we expect that to probably be a little bit more of a more mature audience is where we're going, more of those young professionals up to, those people approaching retirement age is kind of where we're targeting based on the demographic in Boulder.
And when do you plan on opening?
We hope to open November, somewhere between November and December is what we're shooting for.
Okay. And are you mid-construction or what's going on with the status?
Yeah, we just started construction. We just got permit a little bit over a month ago. So it's been a little delayed on what we were hoping to open for. Ideally we were hoping to get open before fall, but it looks like we're going into winter with that.
Okay. And how many people do you expect to be employed?
We're looking at probably around 40. Depends on mixed match, depending on that. Being in Boulder, we get a lot of part-time help, so it kind of, sometimes we end up with more, sometimes we end up with less.
And what will the days and hours of operation?
Yeah, so we're looking for C Burger, we're looking at 11 to 10, or probably in all reality, probably 11 to 9, but 11 to 10 Sunday through Wednesday, and then 11 to 11 Friday and Saturday. And then for the bar itself, we'd look at 4 to 11 Sunday through Wednesday, or Sunday through Wednesday, and then Thursday we go 4 to probably midnight, and then Friday and Saturday 1 o'clock. We may scale those back and do midnight as our last call on those as well, just to kind of mitigate bad behavior, things that happen a little bit later.
And just to clarify kind of the different spaces, on the C Bar side versus the C Burger side, obviously, the burger side, you're talking about families and it's a burger, it's a restaurant situation. On the bar side, is it 21 plus, or is it, anyone wants to come in, eat food, and then also purchase alcohol? What's the plan there?
Yeah, we'll keep it 21 plus is the goal there. It's now that thinking about that verbally outside, saying that we definitely will keep it 21 and older on the C Bar side. I think that it cleans up the whole thing, and some different families. We're not going to be offering anything it's not like one of our restaurants that it's going to be offering anything that's really super kid friendly or any underage friendly. So we'll keep that 21 and older.
Okay, and so separate entrances and exits
Yep.
for the two spaces. Okay. And where will you be storing alcohol?
We have a couple of different storage spaces inside this space that'll be locked up. There's a little office space that actually is behind the bar, and then behind the C Bar side, there's a little office that's behind the bar, so it's very hard to get to. And then with our liquor cabinets that are behind both bars, there'll be options to lock up on side of that as well.
Okay. And will food be served on the bar side?
Yes.
Okay. And what percentage of sales do you estimate alcohol to food?
We're thinking like 25% to 75%, throughout the whole blend of both the C Burger and C Bar.
Okay. And so you're thinking 75% food and the rest alcohol, the 25. Okay. What is the seating capacity in the space?
Right now we're just over 80 seats inside C Burger, and then we're just hovering right around 50 seats inside the bar space itself.
Okay. And then how do you plan on controlling alcohol on premises?
We have pretty strict liquor license, or liquor serving manual that we give to every one of our employees that goes out when you get hired. And we talk about, obviously we're in Boulder, we talk about the students and talk about, IDs and what that looks like constantly, with all the teams. And then we also, if there's a strict policy, if there is a vertical ID that gets passed on to a manager to make the call on that vertical ID. as we know, there's a couple of states out there that do have that do allow verticals. Obviously, state of Colorado doesn't. So but we have that strict policy in place just to mitigate any kind of questions or anything that might happen inside the restaurant.
Okay, and then how soon after hiring will people be trained? And what type of training are you putting in place?
We're constantly doing tips trainings, throughout the restaurants. We generally get somebody to do one that'll do company wide. We do this quarterly with all the restaurants. And then obviously per the liquor license, we need to have everybody tip certified. So it's part of our policy within the month that someone is hired with this, if they don't have tip certification, that they are tip certified.
Okay. And what are the consequences for an employee who violates your alcohol serving policy?
It's by a per case basis, again, fortunately, we've been very fortunate and not had any infractions on anything, but, we have a lot of good employees. We also understand that people make mistakes. So I think it is a case by case basis, if it's super flagrant and, somebody comes in and they let their underage brother or something drink or something like that, obviously that's immediate grounds for firing. If it's, somebody's had a bad day and they weren't paying attention, I think we would have a shadow of empathy and do some retraining on those things as well. So case by case.
Okay, perfect. This time I'll tender the witness to the licensing authority for questions.
Are there any questions from the board? Not seeing any. Ms. Vecchio, please continue.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'd like to call Eva Gerritsen of Liquor Pros as a witness.
Thank you. Would you like me to go ahead and just do my regular spiel? Yeah.
I'll start off with a few guiding questions and then you can do your regular.
Yes, ma'am.
So just, we've got your name on the record. Your current employer?
Is Liquor Pros.
Okay. And what kind of services did you provide to 921 Bar LLC?
We provided the survey for the needs and desires regarding the new hotel and restaurant liquor license located at 921 Pearl Street there in Boulder.
And who conducted the survey?
Kimberly Bobo.
Okay.
Who is
And then
also
if you
an
could,
employee. Sorry.
Perfect. If you could describe the process or method in conducting the survey and the results.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. Once again, for the record, Eva Gerritsen. So prior to the start of the survey, the circulator is briefed on the type of liquor license that is being applied for. They have with them both a business packet and a residential packet. With the business packet, we do ask those folks to identify themselves as a business owner and manager. All information and packet information is being applied to us by the city of Boulder. So we do use their forms, the map, everything that was approved prior to the actual survey process. We went out on May 28th and May 29th during the hours of say 9 a.m. to like 5:45 p.m. and 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Made attempted contacts with 419 business owners, managers, and residents inside the area, and we obtained a total of 127 signatures. All 127 signed in favor at 100%. We did get 58 business signatures. We did try and contact those folks who also had licenses of similar types to notify them of this other hotel and restaurant license coming in. And then we obtained a total of 69 residential signatures, all 69 signed in favor at 100%. We do want to make sure that we remain unbiased in our approach, and we try not to sway somebody one way or another on the license, because we do represent ourselves as an unbiased petitioning company as best as we can. And what we do is once we have the information, we then turn everything into the city clerk's office for review. And at that time, we then make ourselves available, of course, at the public hearing. Given the fact that the signatures, all signatures were approved at 100%, there are many other licenses of similar type, but the 100% still shows that the folks inside the area still feel that there's a need and desire for this license, and that the existing outlets have not yet met that need.
Okay. And so, in summary, do you believe the needs and desires of the neighborhood would be met by this new license?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Thank you. And at this time, I'll tender the witness the authority for any questions.
Are there any questions from the board? Not seeing any. All right, please continue, Ms. Vecchio.
Just a brief concluding statement that 921 Bar LLC's application for a new hotel restaurant liquor license is in order. The applicant is an experienced restaurant owner of many years in the state of Colorado with 14 other liquor license locations, or I'm sorry, 14 years and 5 other liquor license locations. The neighborhood survey makes clear that the needs and desires of the neighborhood would be met by granting the license, and we respectfully request that the licensing authority issue a new hotel restaurant liquor license to 921 Bar LLC.
Great, thank you. And one thing I would like to add before we close for deliberation, Mr. Dayton, I really did like your alcohol policy. It looked good and in order and anything, or everything. The only thing I think it could potentially use is some signs, examples of signs of intoxication. I don't think I read that in there, but if you can just lay it out and what to look for, I think that might just give you a little boost.
Absolutely. And I know that, yeah, I can get that in there, no problem. I know we talk about it all the time. We, being that it was a pretty rowdy weekend last weekend. We had one of those experiences happen at Oak, and my manager came up and was like, "Hey, what do you think?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's cut that person off," and got him a glass of water and walked him through that experience and offered to get an Uber and all that stuff. So we'll add that in through for sure.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely.
So at this time, we will close for deliberation. Is there a motion? Member, oh, go ahead. Member Califano would make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Member Carr will second motion to approve.
Great. All in favor, say aye. Member Califano, aye.
Member Absalom, aye.
Member Carr, aye.
Member Haggerty, aye.
Member Roberts, aye.
All right, new license approved. Good luck.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Give me just a second. I think. Okay. Thank you so much. Next is agenda item 8, matters from Deputy City Attorney.
Good evening, everyone. Nothing from me.
Thank you. And then we have agenda item 9, matters from licensing clerk. We do have one boundary setting for today. That this is for the September 18th hearing, and it is for Chiba Hut Investment Company Inc., DBA Chiba Hut, 1346 Pearl Street, Suite 120, Boulder, Colorado 80302, for a new hotel restaurant type liquor license. And I have the maps up here, and then I took the boundaries from Blowfish, which is right across the street here, and their boundaries were Cedar Avenue extended on the north, Pleasant Street extended on the south, Folsom on the east, and 4th Street on the west.
Member Carr would make a motion to accept those boundaries.
Member Absalom seconds that motion.
All in favor, say aye. Member Califano, aye.
Member Absalom, aye.
Member Carr, aye.
Member Haggerty, aye.
Member Roberts, aye.
Thank you. There was no processes of transfers for this month, no wineries, breweries, or distilleries. Your special events liquor permits are in your packets, and the renewals are in your packet as well. We just have a few things to talk about from city licensing, and that is that board recruitment will open in mid-December. I believe member Absalom's seat is still up, so that will open in mid-December. Member Absalom, you're welcome to reapply at that time. And then Kristen can talk more about this if you need to, but that there is the CJIS training, which is for the CBI for whenever there are background checks that the board needs to review as part of applications. And there is training, and if the training is annual, you have to re-up annually. So some of you might have gotten an email about that. So just check your emails to re-up on that training. So,
And mine was in spam, so just to let you all know. Look there.
That's good advice. Yeah, there is like some links that might be kind of weird. So yeah, check your spam email if you haven't seen it. And then I don't think, Kristen, anything else? I think that's it.
Oh, thank you, Caitlin.
No problem. And then last is agenda item 10, matters from chair and members of the authority.
Anything from the board?
I guess I would just like to just question about a lot of the things we talked about talking about. Member Carr, you remember talking about a bunch of things in terms of ID checking machines, and then we talked about changing around the how we look at training in the city of Boulder. I'm just wondering timelines on when we can actually see some action around those discussions, especially the training component, as we've heard from many people that TIPS training is just inadequate. And I just feel like we need to make some decisions around what our bylaws are accepting certain things. So I would just love to have, I know next month sounds crazy, but when do we have a discussion about what kind of training we accept?
I believe that we think it's in our like bylaws or something that we accept any training that's accepted by the state. So I thought that's where we left the conversation.
Did we leave that because I know that there was a TIPS in-person thing? Did we leave that alone and we just went with our bylaw?
That's my understanding.
That's great. And then in terms of like having ID readers in licensed establishments, I think that was for us to discuss this month. Again, I just don't want to leave any loose ends as we get into a busier season, it sounds like, coming up.
So I believe this was something we discussed at our at a retreat, right? Was to have, potentially require license or scanners. Is that what you're referring to?
I think in June we discussed it.
Okay.
And we talked about having a discussion in August about it. And I don't know how we kind of parse out the timing around those type of discussions. I mean, I would say Chair Califano could kind of give me some highlights on how that might work, but that being said, I just want to make sure we don't like leave those discussions open-ended as we go through the process.
Since September sounds so crazy, I mean, it sounds like we might be here for a late night. Do we want to put it as an agenda item on October as well? How's October looking? I don't even know if you started building that.
Yeah, I'm gonna look for you right now. Let's see. So in September, September you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 show causes, and then you'll have an application hearing. So that's pretty full. And then in October it looks better. So there's currently 3 show causes, 1 application hearing, and you might have another application hearing.
How does the board feel about October potentially?
Let's do it.
And quick question, when we add this for an agenda item, what would, I guess what would that entail?
We're just designating a specific spot to discuss this. So when they send out the packet, we'll see that on the agenda kind of remind you to do maybe some potential research on this, and then just come prepared to discuss if we want to move forward with potentially requiring new licensees to own and use a ID scanner.
Okay.
And just, there's things to think about with that. I mean, the financial burden that we could be potentially putting on these licensees might be a factor. Well, not might, it will be a factor. And, maybe we can reach out to city council and potentially talk about allocating funds or some sort of supplementary funds that could assist with this. If should a restaurant apply for it, if some sort of assistance, I don't know. I might be dreaming pie in the sky with that one, but
And that's another thing that member Carr and I need to discuss about with licensing, about getting a study group together to address public comments today from Mr. Deer King about how we might want to move forward and putting that on the agenda in October. I don't like stacking that much stuff, but I agree that I don't like have us say something and then not follow up with an actual discussion about it. So member Carr and licensing and I can talk about the study group around state law versus local ordinance when it comes to off-premise sales and how they're going to change. I think that's a big discussion when it goes to full-on hard liquor in every single grocery store that is able to just transfer that. That's a big discussion, and I'm excited to dive into it with Michael. So those are the two things on my mind. I was like, I remember talking about having the card readers and then also having this discussion today. And if September's packed, let's try to make sure we address those moving forward.
I would like to put that on the agenda for October, make sure we discuss something by that time. I don't want it to go too far.
I
No
agree.
problem.
Well, you and I and licensing can get together on a study group in the meeting.
Agreed. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I currently, so for October, I'm gonna put a discussion item surrounding ID scanners, and then I will put an item for the addressing off-premise sales as well, in case you wanted to discuss that in October as well. So there'll be those two items. I'll put them separately so that you can kind of make sure that you're controlling the discussion on what you're talking about. Cool. And I'll probably put those on after the application hearings, if that sounds good to you guys. And the show causes. Perfect. And then just so you all know, just as a reminder, if you ever have anything that you want to put in the packet for the rest of the board and the public to review, you absolutely can. You just have to send me or anyone in licensing an email with that, whatever you want to put in the packet. And our packet deadlines are the Monday the week before the hearing. So I send your packet out on the Thursday before the hearing. So that Monday prior is the packet deadline. So don't ever be afraid to send me anything if you want the rest of the board to see something. I'm more than happy to put it in the packet.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Because I'm still learning this position. Am I allowed to be part of that study group or not?
I don't see why not. But
Okay.
I don't see why not either.
Yeah.
Okay. I will definitely try to do some research. Okay, thank you, Roberto. I will definitely try to do some research prior to that meeting to bring maybe some data with me, if that's allowed to, just so we can kind of talk about the other side of things.
Thank you. We'll appreciate your input.
All right, is there anything else from any of the other board members? Seeing any, is there a motion to adjourn?
Member Absalom will make a motion to adjourn.
Member Carr will second that motion.
All in favor, say aye. Member Califano, aye.
Member Absalom, aye.
Member Carr, aye.
Member Haggerty, aye.
Member Roberts, aye.
Yep.
Are adjourned at 4:41.
This is Zila, my new kitten.
Aw.
He's been jumping around all day. I know. Get off the screen, all right?
Our newest member.
Our newest member, junior member.
Thank you all so
Later, guys.
much. Bye.